It's news time. Information is power. Be current. The news headline: breaking. Court declares former Kano Emir Sanusi's banishment as unlawful. The news in full. The Kano state government had actually addressed the banishment of the former Emir of Kano, Lamido Sanusi, who was banished from Kano State after he was alleged to have been insubordinate and disobedient to the Kano State government. The detention of the ousted Emir of Kano, Sanusi Lamido Sanusi, to Awe, a distant hamlet in Nasarawa State, has been deemed illegal, illegitimate, and unconstitutional by Justice Anwuli Chikiri of the Federal Court in Abuja. It was limited and imposed after his detention on claims of insubordination on March 9, 2020, a clear arbitrary breach of his right to freedom of movement and personal liberty guaranteed by the Nigerian Constitution, according to the court. Justice Chikiri agreed with Prince Lateef Fagbemi, senior advocate of Nigeria, who happens to be the counsel to Sanusi, that his client was moved out of Kano to Abuja and later to Awe in Nasarawa State against his wish. She further held that the right to freedom of liberty and personal dignity granted under Section 34 of the Nigerian Constitution cannot be taken away as done by the Kano State government. Department of State Services (DSS) and Attorney General of the Federation (AGF), except with express order of the court. The judge subsequently voided the arrest of the former Emir, harassment and banishment of him to Abuja and later to Nasarawa, and set it aside on ground of being an infringement on his fundamental human rights. A sum of 10 million naira was awarded to the former Emir as damages to be paid to him by the respondent. The court also issued an order directing the respondent to tender a public apology to Sanusi to be published in 2 major national dailies for the embarrassment caused by him, for breaching his fundamental human rights. And this has been the final decision of the court of law after the detention of Emir of Kano, Sanusi Lamido Sanusi, who was alleged to have been disobedient to the Kaduna State government, and because of that, they actually illegally and illegitimately, took him out of Kano. They pushed him out of Kano, and they took him to Awe, that is the Nigerian police has on DSS, and took him again to Nasarawa State, where he was locked up for several days before the court of law actually asked them to release him from wherever they have kept him, and they imposed after his detention on claims of insubordination on March 9, 2020, and all these were said to be a breach of his fundamental human rights.
That his rights were grossly violated, a situation that led him to seek the intervention of the court. He prayed the court to grant all the relief his client sought in the suit, among which included the declaration of his confinement in Nasarawa State as illegal. However, all the respondents, through their respective lawyers, urged the court to dismiss the suit for want of jurisdiction. Counsel to the IGP, Mr. Victor Okoye, further challenged the competence of the court, noting that the instrument conveying Sanusi's banishment was authored and endorsed by an official of the Kano State government. He therefore urged that the applicant ought to have filed the case before a Kano State High Court. Likewise, counsel to the DG of the DSS, Godwin Agbadua, urged the court to strike out the suit on the grounds that the alleged right violation occurred in Kano, stressing that there is a federal high court in Kano before which Sanusi could seek redress. On his part, the Attorney General of Kano State, who was represented by Musa Mohammed, also challenged the jurisdiction of the court in Abuja to entertain the case. He urged the court to dismiss the suit in its entirety for want of jurisdiction and competence. Meanwhile, reacting to the judgment, the Kano State AG Through the lawyer that represented him in court on Tuesday, Abdul Salam Saleh said that they would study it properly and decide on the next line of action. We will look at the judgment critically and consult our client, Kano State government, on whether we will appeal against it or not, Saleh told the newsman. And this is the news about the Emir of Kano, the former Emir of Kano, actually now, that is Lamido Sanusi, who at a point in time, remember last year, while he was, dethroned by the Kano State government of being the Emir of the state, that is Kaduna State, and this happened, remember, in March 9, 2020, after he was accused of disloyalty and insubordination. He was deposed as the Emir and banished to local village in Nasarawa State after a dethronement. Later, he was forcefully moved to Awe Town, where he was confined until March 13, 2020, before the court ordered that he should be granted his freedom. Sanusi actually accepted his fate as the will of God. However, he approached the court to query the legality of his confinement in Nasarawa State because they told him not to move around, in Kano State again. And it was cited, that people that will respond to this, the Inspector General of Police, the Director General of the State Security Service DSS, Attorney General of Kano State, and the Attorney General of the Federation. And while adopting his final brief of argument, Abubakar Mahmoud Sanusi's lawyer actually told the court that his client, that is Sanusi Lamido, was not even before the court of law to argue about his dethronement or asking for any restatement of any kind. But what he is after is that he should be able to live to his fundamental human right, that is freedom to move anywhere he likes in Nigeria, and prayed to the court that they should grant him his freedom, and also to ensure that all the degrading treatment that his client Sanusi Lamido was given, that they have to actually pay for it, and he prayed that the court should relieve his client, which included the declaration of his confinement in Nasarawa State as illegal, and the respondents, through their respective lawyers, urged the court to dismiss the suit for want of jurisdiction. The counsel to the Inspector General of Police, Mr. Victor Okoye, further challenged the competence of the suit, noting that the instrument conveying Sanusi's banishment was authored and endorsed by an official of the Kano State government. He therefore argued that the applicant ought to have filed the case before a Kano State High Court. Likewise, counsel to the Director General of the DSS, Godin Agbadua, urged the court to strike out the suit on the grounds that the alleged right violation occurred in Kano, stressing that there is a federal high court in Kano as well, before which Sanusi could seek redress. And on his part, the Attorney General of Kano State, who was represented by Musa Mohammed, also challenged the decision of the court in Abuja to entertain the case. He urged the court to dismiss the suit in its entirety for want of jurisdiction and competence. Meanwhile, the Kano State Attorney General, through the lawyer represented him in court on Tuesday, Abdul Salam Saleh, said that they will study it properly and decide on the next line of action. However, the Federal High Court sitting in Abuja has still, asked Kano State government to tender apology to the dethroned Emir of Kano, Lamido Sanusi, in 2 national dailies, and also they have awarded Sanusi Lamido damages against Kano State, to the tune of 10 million naira. Thanks for listening.